All right. Made it. Done. Saved by the bell here in the nick of time. Folks, those of you who are watching the replay, if you could just type in replay in the comments section, that would be great. I always like to kind of review the live shows for the next couple of days afterwards to make sure if I missed any questions or any comments. So if you are watching the replay, feel free to put your question in and also just type in hashtag replay for me. That'd be great. Thank you. All right, guys, I see a couple of people jumping on board. Just as a reminder, I am also broadcasting to my YouTube channel at the same time as I'm broadcasting to my Facebook channel. Hey, compadre, what's going on, man? Can you hear me okay? This microphone was being a little grouchy with me today, so I want to make sure my mic is working right now. Hey, Jamar Brothers, how you doing, man? Good to have you on board this evening. All right, guys, I see a lot more people jumping on board. Comadre, comadre, I got a package in the mail today. I think it was from you. Not sure. I think it was. All right, guys, don't be shy as you come on board. Give me a shout out. Let me know who you are, where you're from, and what is in your Cosi Talks mug. Because if you're a cool kid, you got a Cosi Talks mug. Hey, you can hear me? Oh, good. Thank you, comadre. Hey, we got Trent. Good evening, Trent. Brett. Oh, how you doing, Brett? Brett, are you drinking out of your cool kids mug? We got Bonnie on board. Kevin. Kevin, man, you have been on the ball about putting in for your virtual stamp card, and you're like first on that list right now. What's up, Glenda? Glad to have you. And Debbie, yay, Debbie having a Coke, my fellow Floridian right there. Cheers, guys. We've got Lanya. Oh, there's Lanya. Oh my goodness. Hello to you and Leo. And we got William Mays on board. We got Connie. God, we got a nice little crew going on here, guys. Kenny Jones, 1 2 1 2 check from Virginia Beach. And you have the mugs again. Yes, I have the mugs, guys. I'm actually looking at my office right now and I'm slowly running out of space. I have two boxes, huge boxes of brand spanking new Cosi Talks mugs. So my tech team is going to reactivate the mugs on my website, hopefully in the next day or two, because I know a lot of you have been asking so you can purchase a mug. So hopefully we'll get those up and running. And I have something else that I've ordered that's also kind of waiting for that to come in. Doug, what's going on? Say hi to Bob. Yeah, Bob's kind of being a little shy today, so he's over off to the side there. Excited for June 1st. I am so excited, guys. I am wiped out preparing for this live event because it's also coinciding with my kids ending the school year. So lots and lots of changes. But man, guys, I am so excited for next week. I get to debut three new talks. Okay, so if you guys have been watching some of my posts lately and reading your emails, I'll be talking about balance, how balance works, how the brain processes it, how it is affected during amputation, how you can start working on your balance. I'm going to be talking on day 2 about the core and not just, I call it not just the sexy six pack. I'm going to talk about what the full anatomy of the human core and what's its importance. Why is it that things go wonky when you don't have a good strong core? And then last but not least on day 3, this is the one I'm really looking forward to, guys. It's about gait deviations. Gait deviations. And that's basically just a fancy way of saying how people walk differently when they're using a prosthesis. Or as some of my patients will say, why do I walk with a limp? That's what some of my patients will ask me. So that's called a gait deviation. So day 3, guys, day 3, I'm going to be talking about common gait deviations that you see in above the knee and below the knee amputees. Oh, let's see who these kind of Leo's there. All right, cheers, Lania and Leo. Oh, I'm so glad you guys are here. We got Harsh on board. Yes, Trent, you got to get yourself some 2 mugs. I agree. You need a matching pair. There you go. Guys, as soon as I put these up on the website, I'll be sure to post something. We got Johnny V from Poughkeepsie, New York, living the dream, another day in paradise. Johnny, man, love seeing you here every week. We got Dick Devers with his Miller Lite. We got Tom McIntyre. Yes, Debbie. So guys, let me just, if you don't mind my plugging the live event for just a moment. For those of you who are not familiar with it. So last year with all the shutdowns with COVID, obviously a lot of our clinics and conferences got shut down. The amputee boot camps, the bilateral amputee boot camps, the running clinics, walking clinics, gait clinics, the amputee coalition that they have clinics during the conference. All of this got shut down. So I decided, well, I have this lovely virtual platform. So I decided to kind of bring the conference to you guys. So last year I did just that. I did a 3-day series and it's on my YouTube channel, guys. You guys can check it out on my YouTube channel, the live event series from last summer, and you can get an idea as to what to expect for next week. Okay, so this year I decided to go ahead and do it again. I had a lot of wonderful requests for it, and I had 2 companies, College Park Industries and the Prosthetic Center of Excellence, that they came to my rescue at the last, not at the last moment, but they came to my rescue because without their generosity, I would not have had the resources to put this all together. So I'm already shouting out my gratitude for these 2 companies. So guys, June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week at 1 p.m. Eastern time, right? I'm going to be broadcasting right here on my Facebook and on my YouTube channels. Day 1, it's going to be all about balance. Day 2, it's going to be about core. Day 3, it's going to be about gait deviations. So we're going to do the Cosi Talks 101 lecture, because y'all know I like to explain things. And then I'm going to have special guest interviews. So tomorrow, check your emails. Those of you who are on my email subscription, check your emails, and you'll know who my extra special guests are going to be. They are flying in to be in the Cosi Talks studio. It's going to be so much fun. And so we're going to do that. And then after that, guys, this is my favorite part about doing this live event. I'm going to be demonstrating exercises, which, as you can tell on my Wednesday night show, is just a little tough for me to be able to angle the camera, and I don't have an amputee model that I can have in here with me every Wednesday night. So I'm not able to demonstrate some of these exercises. And Bob here, well, let's just say he's kind of a snarky model sometimes, so he doesn't help out much. But for the next 3 days, I do have some very special models coming in, and they're going to help me demonstrate exercises that all of you can do at home. It's a challenge, but I found exercises on balance, core, and gait that can be done by an above the knee, by a below the knee, by a beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And I'm going to take you through all of that the next 3 days. Guys, it's worth going to this live event just to watch the exercises I'll be giving you guys. Okay. So as you can see, I'm really, I am pumped. I am pumped for this. So yeah, so excited. Oh, so Glenda, how many of you guys, can we just do a quick Cosi poll? How many of you all went to the live event last year? How many of you saw it or even saw the replay? Debbie, you got insurance approval for therapy. Yes. Hey, Megan, glad you could join us. We got Andrea, there's my occupational therapist. We got Jim, evening from Illinois side of St. Louis with a nice white wine. Cheers to you, Jim. We got Patrick, there's my other physical therapist on board. I love seeing my clinicians here on the evening. Thanks. Cosi Talks tumblers. I'll have to order those next, William. Kevin says, gait deviations, that's what I really want to see. Will all be good though. And Kevin, make sure, yes, the gait deviations, that's kind of like the grand finale for those 3 days, but stick around for the first 2 days, because the information I'm giving you on balance and core, it kind of builds up to the gait deviation. So it'll give you a nice foundation of information so that when you get to the day 3 with gait deviation, it kind of all just kind of pulls and comes together. So I think I'm excited. I'm so excited. Okay. Robin, you made it. Robin, I know you're wiped out. So thank you for being here. Stephen, glad to see you. So Jim came last year. William was, Bonnie was there. Oh, wonderful. And Benny was there too. So guys, I'll just say one more thing about the live event, and then I promise I'm going to move on to the questions. So we are doing 11 giveaways, guys, 11 giveaways. And that's a big, big thanks to my sponsors who have donated so many great goodies for these giveaways. Okay. Now you can enter one of those giveaways right now. Okay. So if you haven't already done so, check your emails, check the junk mail, because sometimes it'll go to the spam or junk mail. And you'll see I sent out the email that says virtual stamp card. Okay, you're going to click on that little link in the email. You answer 5 questions and you have a raffle ticket into the raffle. And guys, this raffle, I'm raffling off 2 grand prize bags. This bags are stacked. We've got the Rebuilt, that cool black shirt that says Rebuilt in white letters on it, that it looks just so cool. I'll be raffling off a Cosi Talks mug. We've got Visa gift cards in there. We've got all sorts of swag. We've got Vital Fit skincare products that are going to be raffled off as well in this bag. So guys, if you didn't get it, okay, Debbie, I see that you say you didn't get it. You have to sign up for my email subscription at cositalks.com. I'll put that in there. cositalks.com. Okay. So go to cositalks.com, sign up for it, and you'll get the virtual card. If for whatever reason you have not received this, guys, send me a message. Send me a message to my Facebook account, and tomorrow I'll be sure my tech team sends you that virtual stamp card. Yeah, free stuff. I love free stuff. I love giving out free stuff. I love getting free stuff. We got Charles here from Amarillo, Texas. Awesome. Let's see. All right, Jody here from hot Las Vegas, drinking sugar-free lemonade. Debbie, send me a message, Debbie, tomorrow so that I can make sure that you get it, okay? Because I want to make sure you get a chance to enter in it. All right, guys. Hey, Angela, glad you could join us. I have lots of questions from the past week that y'all have been sending me, so I'm going to go ahead and start tackling some of these. And in one of these questions, I'm going to need your help to answer. All right, let's see. Shauna asks me, I am having trouble with a hip flexor from being in my wheelchair for a year due to COVID. How can I work it out safely? Okay, so just quick anatomy lesson. When we're talking about hip flexion, we're talking about the ability of your leg moving up, right? So that's the movement of hip flexion, right? And we have a big, fat, juicy muscle called the Psoas Major muscle, P-S-O-A-S, Psoas Major. It sounds like a funny word. And that's the biggest muscle that is responsible for doing hip flexion, okay? And that muscle is located really deep. It's actually located on this part of your hip bone, okay? So it comes here and then it connects right here with a big fat tendon. So even though it's a very broad, big muscle, it's actually short. It's not like the nice long quadriceps or the nice long hamstrings that you got running down the back of your leg. So the thing with these short muscles is it really doesn't take a whole lot for it to get tight, okay? And in all amputees, it used to be that people would say, well, in the above the knee amputee, it's more prone to having hip flexor tightness. But honestly, I see it also in my below the knee amputees a lot. And the reason is because when you're missing part of the weight of your leg, whether it's as a below the knee, a knee disarticulation, or above the knee, you don't have the weight of your leg pulling at that psoas major muscle and giving it a gentle stretch throughout the day, okay? And then if you sit in a wheelchair for a year, like Shauna has had to do with COVID, and you're sitting in this position, right? That muscle is going to be placed in a shortened position, and it's going to stay there. And that's the thing with our muscles is they like to just stay there. If you don't work it, it'll just keep staying where it is. Okay, so that's a muscle that can get tight very, very easily. Okay, hey Rhonda, glad you could join us this evening. Okay, so what happens when a muscle gets tight? Okay, so if it's been a year, that means it's been quite a bit of time. And if you start really trying to aggressively stretch a muscle, you can actually cause some damage. So that psoas major that I was just telling you about, it attaches here, but it also has some attachments here on your lumbar, your lower back spine. It has like a lot of little muscle fibers that attach there. So if you get really aggressive and trying to yank back and stretch out your hip, you could be in danger actually of hurting your lower back. Okay. So when you have a muscle that's been that tight for that long, it's really a good idea to get it evaluated by someone like a physical therapist, just so they can we kind of dig in there. We have our little technique of how we can dig in there to kind of palpate that muscle and palpate the muscle tendon sometimes, just to see what it is that's stuck and what it is that can be corrected. Is the muscle still pliable? Is that tendon still pliable? Or is it a fixed contraction? Okay, so those are things you want to consider before you start the stretching protocol. Okay, now for me, an ounce of prevention is worth, I forget how that saying goes, but an ounce of prevention, right? So whenever I would walk into a patient room who had just had an amputation right after surgery, that's one of the very first things I would address with them, is teaching them how to position their leg, whether as an above the knee or below the knee, to make sure that they didn't start developing some of this tightness. Okay, so the best way, especially if you're a newer amputee and you have some flexibility, is if you're able to tolerate lying on your belly. Okay, obviously if you're on your belly, this part of the front hip is nice and stretched open, okay? But as is in many cases, many of my patients are not able to tolerate lying on their belly, either because they have a larger belly themselves or they're just not comfortable with breathing. So there's a couple of different things that you can do. One of my favorite exercises, and my patients love this one because I put a nice hot pack on them. If I have a patient who has hip flexor tightness, okay, I will lie them on the bed and I will bend up their other leg just to take the pressure off their lower back. So this foot will be resting on the bed, okay? And then I'll let them slowly hang their residual limb off the bed, just very, very gently, and basically just allowing gravity to bring that leg down, okay? And sometimes what I'll do is sometimes I'll put a hot pack on the front there with some towels just to kind of warm up the area and just kind of get the muscles to just kind of relax a little bit like that. One thing to watch for when you're doing this exercise, if you notice that your lower back is arching, okay, that it's arching, that means you're being too aggressive, okay? So you might want to just slow down that stretch. And it's very, very gradual. I am not someone who is aggressive with stretching with my patients. It takes time for the tendon and the muscle fibers to gain that flexibility. And again, this is one of those things where if you are too aggressive, you can injure yourself, and then you're really in a pickle after that. So again, if you're somebody who has had that, you know that you have this tightness and it's significant, it's definitely worth getting it checked out by a clinician who can kind of guide you through what would be the safest way to start fixing and correcting this. And guys, it can take weeks. I do not have flexibility. My flexibility stinks. It stinks. So whenever I go see my physical therapist, she just kind of moans and groans because my hamstrings are very, 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 very tight. And it takes me months of diligent stretching to slowly get them to get a little bit of flexibility. So I would definitely say patience is something that you have to take into consideration. All right, so Thomas says, he's my prosthetist on board this evening, Thomas. Research shows that it only takes 2 weeks to develop a functionally limiting contracture. Yeah. And guys, I worked many moons in the ICU wards, trauma ICU, burn ICU, pediatric ICU, cardiac ICU, you name it. If it has an ICU attached to it, I've worked there. And so you would have patients who were comatose for a week, 2 weeks. They didn't necessarily even have any injuries. They may have had a cardiac injury or abdominal, something going on with their abdomen. But if we weren't diligent about maintaining their range of motion while they were in a coma for that 1 or 2 weeks, they could present with some really nasty contractures. So Debbie says, I was in a facility for 11 months and had to work on it. Patrick, thank you, Patrick. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Thank you. Let's see. So Debbie says therapy in the facility would give me crap about doing it. And again, Debbie, that's just one example of an exercise. It's not the same exercise for everybody. With each of my patients, I just have to take into account their body shape, their body size, what can they tolerate. Like I said, some folks cannot tolerate being on their belly. Some folks cannot tolerate having their leg hang off the bed because it's just too much, too aggressive a stretch. So there's a lot of different techniques that as therapists we have at our disposal to help do this. Another thing, and this is something I came across, there's an absolutely lovely lady on Instagram. She's an above the knee amputee, and she likes to post her progress. I believe she was a below the knee and she had the revision for above the knee. Absolutely lovely. And she shows how she does her stretching exercises. And she was commenting on how with the hip flexors, she was reaching a stopping point. And I looked back on her exercise and I'm like, nope, she's doing all those exercises correctly, but she couldn't understand why she couldn't progress with her hip flexor tightness. And here's one thing that also to be considered, guys. And again, this is where you need to get the PT to evaluate you. Even though Bob just has one single piece for his pelvis, your pelvis actually has several pieces that are attached together. And within these attachments, there's a little bit of movement that can occur, okay? So sometimes this part of the pelvis can rotate forward or rotate back. And that can also present and contribute to the hip flexor tightness, okay? So sometimes when I have a patient who says, you know, I've been lying on my belly for 20 minutes a day, I've been doing all my stretching exercises, but now I still have tightness. There's a part of me that goes, we need to check the skeletal alignment. And perhaps there's a little bit of a mobilization or a manipulation that needs to be done to correct this skeletal alignment. Okay, so guys, a lot of stuff that I'm just kind of throwing at you, but there's a lot of stuff to be considered when you've been sedentary in a wheelchair for a while, or you're experiencing, Bob doesn't want to cooperate today, when you're experiencing some of this tightness. Okay. Leanne says, oh, Leanne, you are so sweet. Thank you so much. So Patrick asks me, would I recommend that stretch into the home exercise program? Yes, Patrick, if the person can demonstrate that they can do the stretch safely, that they're not overstretching themselves, that they're not being too aggressive, that they are observing proper body mechanics, then yes, I will have a person do these stretching exercises at home. And guys, I do want to make a note of that. You know, your therapist, when they give you these home exercises we call them HEPs, home exercise programs. When they give you these sheets of exercises to do at home, they should be, and I know they do, most of them do, take the time to really make sure you're doing the right form with these exercises. We call it body mechanics, making sure your body is in the right position. So for example, with Bob here, Bob, you're really working, earning your paycheck tonight. Poor Bob. So with this particular stretching exercise, I'm really diligent about making sure my patients are not arching that lower back over here, because we don't want that muscle pulling on the lower back and damaging lower back. Okay. So if I see that one of my patients is doing this exercise incorrectly in the clinic, then I will tell them not to do it at home until they can demonstrate in the clinic how to do it properly. And again, when you're the patient, and because I've been the patient on several occasions in a PT clinic, and I'm doing the exercise and I'm doing them incorrectly. So sometimes it just takes time to learn how to do things properly and how to make it work properly. Okay. All right, it worked for you, Debbie. Yeah, and like I said, it's actually a favorite. I think it's because I put a hot pack. I think that's why my patients like this particular stretch, because it just feels nice to have a hot pack after you've gotten a good workout. And that's another thing I'll throw in there about the stretching. You'll hear camps that say, do stretching before exercises or do stretching after exercises. I'm the camp that says, do your stretching after exercises. Why? Because that's when your muscles are nice and warmed up and juicy. And that's what you want. You want a nice, warm, pliable muscle and tendon. You want that circulation flowing in and out of there, because that's going to make it a little bit more elastic and a little bit more friendly to stretching. I actually don't stretch my patients on cold muscles. For many of my patients, in terms of warm up, I'll have them do some sort of cardiovascular warm up. So for my patients, sometimes it'll mean doing the arm bicycle until they start to feel warm or they break a sweat, 5 or 10, maybe sometimes even 15 minutes as a warm up, or the walking, just gentle walking to get the heart rate going, to get the circulation pumping, and then we start doing the exercises. Okay, we've got, oh, Joan, aloha. Good to see you, Joan. Oh, guys, can I brag on Joan for a minute? Okay, I knew I said I wasn't going to talk about the live event anymore, but I got to say this. So Joan is the wonderful creator of Socket Socks. If you guys have not checked out her website, you need to. She makes some of the most beautiful covers, prosthetic covers for above the knee and below the knee amputees. And she is donating for giveaway covers that have, they are so cool. They look so cool. It's like this black cloth cover and it has the Cosi Talks logo on it. It looks really cool. And so she's donating some of those for the giveaways next week. Okay. Patrick says preset with pelvic tilt and contralateral leg, put spine in neutral, all about the form. Yep. So what basically what Patrick is saying is making sure that the pelvis is not tilted. You're really not very flexible, Bob. You need to cooperate a little more. So making sure the pelvis is not tilted, again, because when you're tilting the pelvis, you're also making the spine do funny things. And the goal is to isolate that muscle right here, not have anything going on here in the hip or in the spine area. All right, here we go. Let's see what else we got. Okay, so let's move on. Wait. You got on a trampoline in therapy, Debbie? That's awesome. I want a trampoline. I don't have a trampoline in my clinic. Oh, I do have a trampoline. It's the one up on the wall. That's awesome, Debbie. So guys, that's actually a great balance exercise. That's a great proprioceptive exercise. That's a great cardio exercise. Debbie, that's awesome. All right, guys, let's move on to the next question. This one came to me from Philip. Philip asks, I've been a left above the knee amputee since July 2020, so he's coming up on almost a year. I've been at a functional rehab for 8 weeks now. The team is good for me, but they don't work with amputees all the time. Stairs have been really giving me grief. When I initiate my left leg, the amputated side, to step up, I go this weird leg swing thing that I'm trying to straighten out. Was hoping you might be able to guide me one way or another. Okay. And guys, stairs are something that's one of those higher level activities, functional activities, along with getting up and down off a floor, that it is very important in rehab to be addressed. If you are a candidate, if you are somebody who lives on a second floor, you need to be able to figure out a way how to go up and down steps safely. And also, not to mention in our community, guys, there's curbs and steps all over the place. So this is definitely a skill to work on in your physical therapy clinic. So let's talk a little bit about this one, okay? Yeah, this gentleman is a left above the knee, okay? With my below the knee patients, okay, most of the time, I teach my below the knee patients how to go up and how to go downstairs as if they had two anatomical legs, meaning I teach them how to go up the stairs step over step, and the same thing coming down step over step. Now, obviously with my below the knee amputees, they have their anatomical knee there, so they have that control, the muscle that is under their control. Oftentimes I do need to work a lot on quad and hamstring strengthening as well as glute strengthening to make sure that their amputated side, that knee is strong enough to be able to lift the body weight up the stairs safely. But it is something that I do expect my below the knee amputees to be able to do. There are exceptions to that, being obviously somebody who perhaps is in a frail condition, my extreme elderly, some who are not able to do it, or if there's any other injuries that prevent them from being able to do this, okay? With my above the knee amputees, different story, okay? There are only 2-3 microprocessor knees in the market right now that allow an above the knee amputee to go upstairs step over step, okay? There's only 2 or 3 out there, and again, I'm not going to name them because I don't want to name the wrong ones, okay? And it's a very precise technique that the person needs to learn to be able to initiate that step over step pattern. And it also requires a lot of glute strength. It requires a lot of strength and a lot of power to be able to take advantage of that kind of a knee and go up step over step, okay? Going down steps, that's a different story. Pretty much all the microprocessor knees out there on the market allow the individual to go down step over step, but it is a very specific technique on how to activate that knee to do that, and it has to be something that needs to be practiced in the clinic, okay? For my folks who have mechanical knees, okay, it's a step up scenario, okay? And yes, and I'll be I'm embarrassed to say that when I was first working with amputees 18 years ago, and I was still learning and trying to figure out how things worked, I did try having the occasional above the knee go up the stairs step over step, and it was a disaster. It was a disaster. And my clinical instructor, the one who taught me everything I know about working with amputees, and I asked him this, and he goes, well, why don't you and so try doing it and see what happens? And I had a patient who was thankfully a really good sport, and we tried getting him, and it just didn't work. And so my clinical instructor said, yep, that's just not going to work. So your plan B, when your patient has a mechanical knee, because way back then everybody had mechanical knees, is you teach the person to go up step, okay? And you lead with the sound leg going up the stairs. So this gentleman is a left above the knee amputee, which means he would simply go up with his right and then bring his left prosthesis up. Up with his right, bring his left prosthesis up. Going down the stairs, it's the opposite. You go down first with the prosthesis, lock it in extension, and then come down with your sound leg. Up with the good, down with the bad. That's kind of the saying to remember. You go up with the good leg, and you coming down the stairs, you lead with the prosthetic leg. Does that make sense, guys? And believe me, guys, it's scary. I'll be the first one to say it. Even as a therapist, when I'm first working with a patient and teaching them how to use that microprocessor need to go down that first step, that first time, my heart rate's going just a little bit more. I mean, I'm very safe with my patients, and I make sure that we're in a very safe environment so that if they lose their balance, they're not going to, crack their skull or crack my skull. But it's still, it's scary to trust those knees for that first time when you're going down those steps. It's scary. All right, you made it, Daryl. Glad to see you here. Susan, I'm so glad you could make it. Okay. So Susan, yes. And Susan says, I thought it was my muscle thigh, but it's my knee. So Susan, it's both. Okay. So the muscles of your, you are working overtime today. The muscles that help control your knee are your quadriceps on the front part of your knee, and then your hamstrings, and they run across your hip joint and down past your knee joint, right? So it's covering a lot of territory there. So for your knee to be nice and strong and stable, for you to go upstairs as a below the knee amputee, your quads and your hamstrings have to be nice and tight and working together. That's the other thing. Your quads and your hamstrings have to be working together. And there's several exercises that we do as PTs to teach our patients how to get the hamstrings and quads to work together. Okay. So Stephen says, I have one of those legs, step over step, and it terrifies me. And again, Stephen, when I have someone who presents in the clinic, and the first thing that comes to mind is the Genium X3 knee by Ottobock. If I have a patient who presents with that knee, then I will teach them the mechanics of how to use it, just so that they know how to use it. But more often than not, most of the folks end up going one step up at a time, just because it's a little bit more energy efficient. Again, with my below the knee amputees, it's a little bit of a different story. And again, as much as I can, I want my patient, my below the knees, to do step over step or step down over step. And part of that is also because it takes the strain off the sound leg, right? So with amputation, obviously, we tend to favor the anatomical leg, the biological leg, however you want to title it. Which means that it's going to take a lot more abuse and develop more chronic injuries. Okay. So the more that you can put the responsibility on the prosthesis and teach someone how to be safe and confident, you're also saving the sound leg in the long run. Food for thought. Susan says, I can't even go down the stairs, step over step, not up or down. And actually, Susan, it's actually more difficult to go downstairs than it is to go upstairs. It doesn't seem like it would be, but there's actually a lot more, we call it eccentric muscle control. So your muscles going down the stairs are utilizing eccentric muscle control. And that's actually more difficult to control than when you're going up the stairs. Okay. And again, this is not a skill that is just done overnight. It's not just a simple matter of teaching the person the technique and off they go. There's a lot of strengthening involved. And in some cases, I use the stairs as the strengthening technique to get those hamstrings and glutes and quads strong. Okay, so it does take work. Patrick, I used to say the same thing. Good goes to heaven, bad goes to. All right. y'all seem like y'all have heard this. Susan is like, up to heaven, down to hell. There you go. Oh, Patricia, thank you so much. And actually, guys, the more I've done this show, the more I've gotten a chance to meet some of my colleagues in other parts of the country. So there are PTs out there who are passionate about working with amputees, and they are out there and they are starting to multiply, which is wonderful. We're starting to see more. I think I'm starting to see more in the physical therapy grad school programs, that you're starting to see more amputee education in there. So. All right. Step ups. Yes, Patrick. And actually, Patrick, thank you for showing that. I'll give you guys a little sneak peek. I will be teaching you an exercise next week that will help you with stair stepping. All right. I need a drink. I need to drink up my café con leche. And guys, tonight it's decaf café con leche. Sometimes you guys ask me, what is it that I have in my mug? Decaf café con leche. I'm Cuban Spanish heritage. This is our version of comfort food right here. All right, let's move on to the next question. Ooh, here's a good one. No, we're going to save that question for the last part. Glenda, I'm saving your question for the end. So stick around, Glenda. You got to stay on the show. Jeff asks, I have tried the liquid to powder lotion and certain dry antiperspirant, and I am sweating through it. How else can I manage sweat? So guys, here, quick thing. Those of you who've been watching my show, you know that I am a huge fan of the Vital Fit skincare product line. It's a product line that was specifically designed by a dermatologist to address the skincare needs of amputees, people who use prosthetic devices specifically, and for diabetics. So I've been working with this company for almost 2 years now, and using these products on my patients. Phenomenal product program. So one of the products that they have here, and you guys can find this on my website, there's a discount code there if you want to try it out, is the liquid to powder lotion. And that's exactly what that means. It goes on, you put it on your skin as a liquid, like a lotion, and then when it dries, it's like this nice little fine, thin powder that's on your skin. And the purpose is to help manage sweat. It's to help prevent friction and chafing within the socket. And the reason why I like this particular product is because it doesn't contain aluminum. It doesn't contain any of those ingredients that tend to trigger sensitive reactions in some folks. And it doesn't get balled up. Like some of the other liquid to powder lotions I've used in the past with my patients, they get gummy and yuck. Okay. So that being said, I love these products because again, they are designed to help with sweat and odor and bacteria in the socket. But as I've learned from living in hot, sticky, tropical, subtropics, Florida, there is nothing that can prevent sweat from happening. Why? Because that's our body's natural response. We need to sweat in order to cool ourselves down, okay? And as amputees, sometimes you might notice that you actually have increased sweat. And this is because of the fact that you have less surface area to sweat from. I haven't done this poll in a while. How many of you have experienced more sweating on your residual limb or on your whole body since you became an amputee? And I know it sounds weird, but if you think about it, put that in the comment section. Put that in the comment section. Okay. So the reason for that, and I've had patients who say to me, I know this sounds weird, but I think I'm actually sweating more. Is it my imagination? No, it's not your imagination. Okay. Because when you lose your leg, you're losing surface area. You're losing sweat glands, right? So now you don't have as much to sweat from. So the rest of your skin on your body has to pick up the slack, okay? And you still have to cool your body temperature down. For some people, they have a very localized that they notice they just only sweat more on their residual limb. Other people notice that their whole body. And with the course of time, for the most part, this tends to kind of even its way out. And some people don't experience this at all, okay? But I guess my really long-winded point is sweat is just a part of life, unfortunately, being an amputee. There are ways to manage it. You have product lines, skincare product lines like this that are a great conservative way to try to manage the sweat. The other part of it is changing throughout the day, okay? So again, in Florida, you know, sometimes it gets so hot and sticky here that we have to change our shirt halfway through the day because it's just that miserable and sticky. So I give that same analogy to my patients. You know, the same way sometimes we got to change our shirt through the day, you might have to change your socks and maybe even clean out your liner halfway through your day. And I will tell my patients, carry a 50-50, 50 alcohol, 50 water solution spray bottle, little small one, with them in the car or in their purse or in their office, okay? Where halfway through the day, if they're having a lot of problems with sweat, take the socks off, take the liner off, spray everything down, wipe it nice and dry, wipe the liner nice and dry, put everything back on with clean, dry socks. And then at nighttime, obviously do the regular hygiene on the liner, okay? Other thing to consider is the kind of liner that you're using. And this is something that I'm really excited about because just even in the past 3 years alone, since I've had my practice open, we've had some companies come out with breathable liners. So one of my personal favorites is the Blatchford Silk Care Breathe Liner. It has like just the little laser, tiny pinprick hole-sized perforations in the liner that allow the sweat to come out, okay? Then you have one by Alps, and I believe Willowwood is another one that has Smart Temp. And hopefully I didn't mix up my brand names with my liners. But they have liners that are meant to be cooler on the inside. Now, some of these liners can be a little more expensive, or they might require adjustments to the socket in order to accommodate the liner. For example, the Blatchford Silk Care liner, the socket has to be modified. But if you are someone that is having a lot of problems with sweat, it's certainly worth having this conversation with your prosthetist to see what's going on and see if you can fix this. And then in extreme cases, there are some studies that have been done to show the efficacy of Botox. That some people have Botox done in their residual limb, and it helps basically stop the sweat. Okay, but again, that's obviously I would consider that to be, not the first step of trying to manage sweat. But if you've tried other conservative techniques and it's not working, visiting a dermatologist. I would definitely say if you're going to think about doing something like that, go to a dermatologist who can evaluate your skin and really give you some good advice on that. Okay. Oh, Pat says, listening closely from upstate New York with a cold one in hand. Cheers, Pat. IPA, you got your IPA? 4-year anniversary just passed as a right above the knee. Do you recommend revisiting a PT with amputee knowledge from time to time for a refresher course? Currently back for some PT locally per my request to enhance my walking gait, and also back to swimming soon. Always appreciate your expert. Oh, Pat, man, it's good to hear from you, Pat. Good to hear from you. So guys, I love that question, and thank you for feeding me that plug, Pat, because yes, the answer is yes. Bob, go sit over there. Go sit in the corner, Bob. Okay, so when it comes to physical therapists, guys, as our bodies age, things start to fall apart, right? And physical therapists are a wonderful tool to help kind of put things back together again. Guys, in my own medical care, I have obviously my primary care doctor. I have an OBGYN. In my case, I also have an oncologist because of my history with breast cancer. But I have 2 PTs. I have 2 physical therapists that with different specialties that I have in my Rolodex. So when something pops up, I go to see one or the other. They're just wonderful at helping with those aches and pains that can crop up as we get older to help prevent further injury. So for my amputee population, I'd say yes, the physical therapist definitely needs to be someone you have a relationship with, as well as your prosthetist, because we're going to be the ones who will be following you throughout your life as you age. And as far as touch-ups, definitely I would say when you have, and again, when I finish a traditional course of physical therapy with my patients and they're independent and moving about the community with their prosthesis safely, I'll say to them, okay, I'm going to check back with you, and I'll give them a call once a month, and then I'll give them a call once every 6 months, just to kind of make sure and touch base that everything is going okay. Here are some of the times that I recommend that you go back to your physical therapist. If you receive new componentry, okay, if you have a big new socket change and you're trying out a new socket, if you are trying out a new knee, those of you who were using a mechanical knee and now you're learning how to use a microprocessor knee, big difference, big difference. Those of you who are making a dramatic change in the foot that you use, were you using a very simple single axis foot and now you've been upgraded to a dynamic response energy storing foot, that's a much different feel for the foot. And so what I'll tell my patients is if you have new componentry, send me a video. So my patients oftentimes they'll send me a video or something like that, or they'll come into my clinic and I'll just see them walk up and down. And if I see like, okay, yeah, we're starting to see you're not used to using this knee properly, might do a couple of lessons to brush up. If there are any aches and pains, guys, as we get old, the aches and pains crop up. When you use prosthetic devices, aches and pains will happen. Back pain, hip pain, knee pain, neck pain, okay? So again, this is where the services of a physical therapist can come in handy. And yes, Pat, for gait, and again, you just gave me a beautiful lead in for next week's set of shows for day 3 on gait deviations. And I'm going to talk about next Thursday on the live event about how the quest for the most efficient gait pattern. Okay. So there's no such thing as a perfect gait pattern, and we're going to learn more about that next week. But what is it that you strive for? What should be your goals when you're learning how to walk And even as you continue in your life as an amputee, do you continue working for that smoother gait pattern? And the answer is yes, yes. So the same way that we have to keep our fitness and our strength and our range of motion and endurance up as we get older, our gait pattern also changes as we get older, and we need to be able to kind of keep it in good shape. So thank you for feeding me that question, Pat. That was a good one. Susan says, I have total body sweats and they stink. Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah. Let's see. Johnny says the gel liner causes sweat. And again, Johnny, I get different kind of responses from folks. I have some folks who have the silicone liner and they say they are feeling sweaty in that, or not as sweaty in the silicone liner. But looking at your liner, guys, definitely looking at your skincare. What products can you be using on your skin to help manage the sweat, and then also the liner, just to see if there's anything else that can be done. I know there's a couple of clinics in my area, prosthetist clinics, that the prosthetists like to make liners themselves. And normally they work out quite nicely, but sometimes you have a patient who just really isn't taking to that liner. So you just need to kind of advocate just a little bit more and open up that communication with the prosthetist to see if they can think about ordering you a liner that might be a little more sweat friendly. Lori says that she definitely noticed a difference as a left above the knee. Oh, Rita, that's okay. That's why God invented the replay. Yeah, and humidity is pretty wicked here in Florida. Let's see. How many millimeters thick are the temperature liners? Susan, I don't have an exact measurement. I can tell you that they are about that thick. That's not very accurate answer. But what I've noticed with these liners, like I want to say it's the Smart Temp liner, it's not that they're necessarily thinner. They don't, at least to the naked eye, when I've seen them side by side, they're not hugely like big difference thinner. It's more of the material that it's made out of and how whatever proprietary formula that they use to make the liner. And again, I need to learn a little bit more. I'm a little bit more familiar with the Blatchford Silcare liner, not so much with the others. I just know that some of my patients use them and they like them. Lori says, have you ever heard of the trick to put a liner in the freezer for a bit? It cools off a sweaty limb and it also helps with swelling, I would think. Lori, that's actually a really neat trick. I've never heard of that. And now that I think about it, that's actually kind of a nice idea. Just make sure, me, I'm the PT, I got to put the caveats in there. Just make sure that you have good sensation on your skin, because I've heard of some patients that they would put ice packs directly onto their skin. And because they didn't have good sensation, they actually ended up burning their skin with the ice. So that would be my only, just make sure your skin sensation is good. Charles says he uses a liner sock. And Charles, I do have some people who use the liners and they do like it. It's like a thin, slippy, I call it a slippy sock. It's just a very thin material and it goes on the skin underneath your liner. Here are my thoughts on that, because I gotta have a soapbox about it. With the liners, the way the modern liners have been designed is to have total contact with your skin, okay? So when you're putting something in between your skin and the liner, you're kind of compromising the integrity of the liner. Like, it's not going to have that total contact. And one of the things that I look at folks when they're saying that they have a lot of sweat in their liner, like they're having to pour out the sweat kind of amount, is the liner fitting properly? Because if the liner is too loose, then you're creating air pockets, which is going to encourage sweat in that air pocket, okay? So it's another thing to consider. If you're noticing that you're having increased sweat in your liner, is it time to change the liner? Is that liner too stretched out? So yes, I do have some folks who like the liner and it works fine for them. And I say, okay, if it works for you and it's not compromising the integrity of how your liner fits on you. But usually I encourage my folks just to keep the liner directly onto the skin. Johnny says, my dermatologist was not in favor of Botox injections onto my residual limb for sweat control. And again, that's one of those that I've heard. I've read a couple of research articles on it as a method of using for sweat control. But no, not everybody would be a candidate for it. And again, this is where I say, if that's something you're considering, then you need to find a qualified professional, which would be your licensed dermatologist, to determine if you would be a candidate for this or not. And then on the other side of it, we have Tom, who says, I get the Botox every 4 months, and it does work, and been getting it done for 10 years now. Okay, I believe the study I read, it was being done on Army soldiers. Or I'm going to have to look up that study. It's been a while since I've read that one. I need to look that up. So
Well, I always knew I was a talker, but I didn't realize I could out-talk my microphone's battery. Sorry, guys. Oh my gosh. Can you guys hear me now? No sound, no sound, no sound. Yep, there we go. Susan's like, wait until she figures it out. Okay, am I blushing a little bit? Okay. Oh my gosh. Sorry guys. It's just with your comments. Sometimes the comments just take there's sometimes a time lag, and sometimes your comments will come up right away. So obviously there was a little bit of a time lag there. Woohoo, yes. See, I'm Cuban. I talk a lot, which means I out-talk my microphone's battery. Okay, so guys, can somebody clue me in? Where did I leave off? Where did I leave off in my soapbox? And I know my tech team is probably watching right now, and they're just face palming right now. They're doing that emoji like, oh, there goes Cosi with technology again. Yeah, cheers. All right, guys, where did I leave off talking? Can y'all give me a hint here? Liner. Ooh, who knows? Harsh is like, who knows? Thanks. Yeah. Never a dull moment here, David. Nobody knows. Nobody knows where I left off. Okay. Okay. So with the liner, and the Botox. So some folks have been using Botox. Some folks have been told by their dermatologist they're not candidates. Again, guys, with the Botox, if that's something that you're considering for something for sweat management, go to the expert. And the expert in this case would be a licensed dermatologist, and ask them and have them a consult on you to see if you are in fact a candidate or not. And then don't be shy about asking them, how many times have they administered Botox to their patients for sweat management, and see if that's something that they regularly do in their clinic so that they know how to inject and quality. Oh no, some people aren't hearing me anymore. Can you guys hear me? Crikey. See, guys, this is why next week for my live event, my tech team is going to be here to make sure I don't screw it up with the microphones and everything like that. So thank God bless my tech team for being here for me next week. Okay, guys. And the other thing I was just commenting on, I think I was commenting on the gait pattern, because Patrick had mentioned that, the more efficient your gait pattern is, the better, the less gait deviations you have in your gait pattern, the more efficient you're going to be at walking. Okay. So I think one of the things I was saying during my long silence was that if you line up 20 people, right? 20 people with no injuries, 20 people with 2 anatomical legs, no visible injuries, no pain, nothing going on, and you have them walk, all 20 people are going to have a unique gait pattern, right? It's going to look similar, right? Because they're bipedal humans, right? It's going to look similar, but they're all going to have unique gait pattern with their own gait deviations. Okay, they're all going to present with these little anomalies within their gait pattern. And one of the things that I've changed in my mindset as a physical therapist now compared to where I was, 18 plus years ago when I started practicing, is when I see a patient and I see what kind of gait deviations that they have, the next question I ask myself is, are these gait deviations pathological? Meaning, are these gait deviations preventing my amputee patient from being able to walk efficiently? Are these gait deviations something that will potentially cause a chronic injury down the line? Are these gait deviations what's currently causing pain in my patient? Okay. And that's how I try to see some of these gait deviations, is try to address the ones that are going to be causing a problem. Yeah, I've got the giggles. It doesn't take much, Susan, at this time of day. It really doesn't take much to get me giggling. All right. Stephen says, I've been told not to shave my stump. The liner grabs my hair in the crotch area. I'm Italian and hairy. Any advice? So yeah. So sometimes I'll have women, especially the women who come in and they want to shave their residual limb. And it can just cause a lot of problems, because when you shave, obviously the root of the hair is still in the follicle, right? So then you put a liner on top of it, and then it's rubbing up on that follicle, and you get yourself a nice case of folliculitis. And it's those little red bumps that you get when you shave, okay? And that can be incredibly irritating for your skin. So for the most part, I tell folks, don't shave the area where your liner is in contact with the skin, okay? Now, I do have some men who are very hirsute, and they have a lot more hair, and it actually hurts because it pulls at the hair. Completely understandable. So, there are a couple of options. Some people decide to do laser hair removal in those areas. And some people actually have that approved by their insurance and paid for by their insurance, because it's demonstrating that it's a medical necessity so that it doesn't cause skin breakdown. So that is an avenue that some folks decide to take. Oftentimes, and I've seen this in some of my male patients, that because they're wearing the liner, the hair just stops growing in that area because it just kind of gets rubbed off over time. But Stephen, the shaving really just ends up causing, especially if you are somebody who's hairy, you have more follicles. So it's going to cause more irritation in that area. Stephen, I would say if that's something that's really causing you, just ask and go see the dermatologist and see. Many of them, pretty much all dermatologists in my area carry the laser hair removal in their office, and they offer that service just to see if there's just certain patches that are more irritating than others that you just need to have the hair removed from that area. The trimmer, that's another option. Yes, Jamar. So with the, oh, I'm brain farting right now. The clippers, the electric clippers that men use to shave their heads when they shave their heads kind of thing, that you put that on a setting where you're not shaving right up to the follicle of the hair, but you're leaving just a little bit of the hair there. And that way it's less irritating than shaving it completely. Yeah, so Jamar, you're absolutely right. Shave the limit causes itchiness in irritated areas. So trimmers like hair clippers, thank you, work good, work well. There you go, Susan. Even Susan said the same thing. There we go. All right, guys, we are going to wrap it up for this evening. I'm going to go plug in my microphone to make sure it's going to be working for next week. Guys, before I go, please, if you haven't already signed up for the email subscription, go ahead and sign up for it. Turn in those virtual stamp cards. I'm telling you, it's some really great prizes. And all you have to do is answer a couple of questions on that virtual stamp card, and off you go. And guys, I call myself a mom and pop organization. So anytime you all share my live videos, share my posts with your amputee support groups, with your own personal pages, it really just helps me get the word out about what I'm trying to do and the education I'm trying to provide the community. So a big thank you to those of you who help me spread the word. All right, guys, if I missed your questions, and that sometimes happens, if I missed your questions, please feel free to either tag me or send me a message through my email. It's on my website, and I will get back to you on those questions. In the meantime, I'm going to see you guys, and I won't say same bat channel, same bat time, because it's not. It's going to be June 1st through the 3rd, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the live event series. Keep checking those emails. All right, guys, have a great evening.